Hello, everybody, and welcome back to your social media compass. My name is Jaclyn Baker, and I'm here with my friend Dan Cosgrove. If you want to say hi.
Jaclyn, nice to meet you, and hello, everyone. Great to meet you all. I hope I have a smooth voice during this conversation today.
Oh, it's perfect. Amazing. Before we dive in, why don't you tell everyone your name, your company name, what you do, all that good stuff.
Yeah, I always like to say, what am I really trying to do? I'm trying to solve America's healthcare crisis, which, seems to be an easy thing, right? But my name's Dan Cosgrove, CEO of Wellness for the Workforce. And yeah, our true focus is we found that Americans are suffering due to our healthcare costs getting out of control, and that a lot of us don't even know that there's a solution in place. And we're working on providing that solution. We're evangelizing the good word, you could say, to help more people be aware of all these opportunities in front of them. So that's kind of like the quick summary. And I live out here in Boston, Massachusetts. But I always joke I'm originally from Cincinnati, Ohio, and I've been out in Boston for a decade now, and I still go on my runs along the Esplanade every week and wave and smile at people, which is just not a normal thing to do in Boston. So my Midwesterner personality, despite being in Boston for the last decade now. So that's a little bit about me.
Amazing. Yeah, because I live in a building, and I feel like where I live, everyone is so friendly and nice.
Yep. See, it's all based upon where you are in the country. I know in the Midwest we were all super friendly, and then when I moved up to Boston, it's I love the people of Boston, but yeah, they are sometimes not as friendly. It takes a little bit of time to break them in, we'll just say, but they're great people once you get to know them.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm sure. I just love how I'll be in the elevator, be walking in the hall, and people stop you and ask, like, how your day's going.
Yep. That is fantastic. Hey, if you ran into me in the hallway, I would have asked you how your day's going. So there you go.
I appreciate that. Remind me, how long have you been in business?
Gosh, well, Dan Cosgrove personally has been doing a lot of business for a while. The quick background on me, I started at Procter and Gamble. Gosh, well over a decade ago. And then from P&G, I always joke about this. They're trying to find a way to get rid of me. So the first thing P&G did was they sent me down to Brazil, and I was negotiating with South American governments for incentive money on our planned expansion as a company down there. But my fourth day, I was robbed at gunpoint on my way into work. And so luckily, didn't die or anything like that, but definitely lost all of my laptops and phones and all that stuff. Uh, Ended up being a great experience though. And got moved back from South America a little bit later. And when I came back, I was in Cincinnati, Ohio, which again is my hometown. So if anybody from Cincinnati listens to this, they might agree, but they might be offended when I say this. Cincinnati is a fantastic city, but it's not the best place to be young and single. And so I worked out a way with P&G to send me out to Boston as a part of Gillette. And like 3 months into getting out to Boston, they promptly sold my brand Duracell to Berkshire Hathaway. So I went with Berkshire in the divestiture and spent a few years, setting up a $2 billion organization over there, because it's amazing. Warren Buffett's brilliant, but we didn't even have SAP set up in order to ship to Walmart, Costco, Sam's Club, etc. So that was a fun little challenge to get that set up. From there, I ended up getting poached by Nike. I went over and was the chief of staff to the CMO on the Converse brand, but always had an itch that I wanted to scratch of being much more entrepreneurial. And my personal goal was always 10 years after undergrad to break away from the corporate world and do my own thing. And so it was actually 10 years in one day that I officially took a package from Nike. So that's where I then started my own companies. And I really only have two companies that I focus on. One is I own a mental health company, and that's just geared towards providing affordable access to mental health care in the community. Because I do believe mental health is not just a rich person problem. I believe it's an every person problem. And by providing affordable access, we're able to better serve the community and the people around us. And then the other business that we have up and running is, of course, Wellness for the Workforce, which is truthfully just a way for people more importantly, companies to better understand that they can provide better benefits packages to their employees while increasing their profits and better serving the healthcare concerns of their everyday person. So yeah, that's a long-winded answer for you. How long have I been in business and what am I doing?
No, that's amazing because I started my business right when I graduated college. I feel like it was more or less the next day after I graduated, I rented an office and got started.
Yeah, that's awesome. Kudos to you.
Yeah, I was just shy of 22. I was like, you know what? If this works, amazing. If not, I'm living at home. I'll be fine. I'll survive.
I'm jealous of you. I wish I would have started earlier. I tried plenty of side companies. In fact, I actually did my MBA at Babson College, which may not be well known by a lot of people, but they're the number one entrepreneurship school in the U.S. And so I did MBA there. And during that time, I had a fun startup company called Fielder's Derby, where we were just creating like Hawaiian style shirts that you might see from Chubbies or Rowdy Gentlemen or like that. You know, we we've we 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 failed is the best way to put it. But it was a great learning experience to understand the competition in the marketplace, how you can create a sustainable profit stream versus at that one is kind of hit or miss and you had to be very trendy and stay on it, etc. So it was a great learning experience, but certainly not the business that I'm running anymore.
Yeah, because like I know it's cliche, but there's only so many things you learn in school. Like a lot of it you have to kind of just do on your own.
100%. I would even say this, and then no offense if any of my professors ever listen to this podcast, but I personally found some of the best professors, both in undergrad and graduate school, were adjunct professors because they had to actually teach from basically what they had learned in the real world. Versus a lot of other professors had been lifelong professors, and don't get me wrong, they were fantastic, but there is something to this idea of you can learn so much more just by doing versus by reading. And so, yeah, I'm a big believer in that too.
Like so many little things you wouldn't even think would be a huge deal. Like you have to learn on your own. Like when I first started, I realized, hey, I don't have a professional email. I don't have an email signature. I don't have, like an appropriate about page on my website. Like so many little things that we didn't cover in school, but I knew I had to get it done.
Yep, completely agree with you. And, I would, as I think back to school, and every person is entitled to make their own decision as for school. But if school taught me one thing, it wasn't like how to be book smart. It was really how to get along socially with other people. So it gave me the qualitative skills. And like, I feel bad, honestly, for a lot of those groups out there that had COVID negatively impact their college experience. Because then they didn't get the most important social skills, in my opinion, of what I got out of college. Uh, yeah,
So I graduated college, I believe, in 2014 or 2015. So it was like a different kind of vibe then.
it certainly was. Yeah, we were lucky to be able to have a real 4 years of college. Uh, yeah, the COVID generation certainly did not get the same benefit that we got.
Yeah, my program that I was in was very small. I think it was like 40 or 50 people.
Oh, nice. Yeah, so you probably got to know everybody on a first name basis.
Yeah. No, I knew everybody, so it was just super easy and convenient. And
Yeah,
it teaches you a lot. You're like, okay, I have to learn how to work in a group. Even if like you don't like everybody in the group, you still have to, get it done.
yeah. No, I'm with you on that. But I'm thinking more about what college didn't teach us. Like you have to create a professional email and all that stuff. There's so many little hacks that you learn once you're on your own. Like for instance, if you're running your own business, productivity is the biggest thing because the only thing in life that's truly non-refundable is time. And so, like, how do you get your virtual assistants? How do you get Calendly set up? How do you have your Zoom integrations? You have your text shortcuts on your iPhone so that you're able to in real time get everything set up quickly. Because like right now, there's a lot of companies I want to talk to, and if I'm texting a CFO or CEO at a company and they tell me, "Hey, this time works for me," well, I want to get that Zoom invite off to them immediately, whether I'm out on the like pushing my kid in a stroller, and I want to be able to do that right now. Versus in the past, like I didn't have that integration immediately. I'd have to wait till I get in front of my laptop to send out these invites, etc. Everything can be done so much faster. Everything can be templatized, etc. I love the ability to learn things faster and implement it faster when you're working on your own. Versus if I was maybe in a corporate position where all these systems are already put in place and they've been in place for the last 30 years, so they're not on the bleeding edge of innovation. They're there because it's always been there.
I know. It's interesting you bring up Calendly because I don't think I got it until maybe like 2 or 3 years ago because I never even heard of it. Like I just wasn't aware. So before I would like email and text clients to say, hey, are you free at 2? They would respond 3 hours later. Oh, sorry, just seeing this now. And it was like a back and forth thing. Versus now I could just send them the link and they could book it whenever they want. And there's no like, oh, sorry, I missed your email. I was busy.
Exactly. I agree with you. It makes life a lot easier for people just to pick the times that they want. Now, some people may never pick the time because like, well, I'm not going to schedule on their calendar. They should schedule on my calendar. Okay, fine. There might be some follow up back and forth on those, but hopefully 80% of the time they are making both their life and your life easier by just booking on the calendar.
Yeah. Or even like connecting on social media in real time sometimes is easier.
Yeah.
Like just sending a LinkedIn DM for some folks is easier than sending an email.
Yeah. I agree. I agree
Yeah.
with you.
Did you get a lot of leads through social media, would you say?
It really depends upon the business. So I will tell you, and you can feel free to steal this if you'd like. So I focus a lot of my social media on LinkedIn, just because I'm speaking to business owners, executives, board members, etc. And so what I actually started doing in I guess January 1, 2024. So I made this goal. And I don't know if you ever saw this Facebook commercial. I think it was actually run towards the end of COVID, where they're talking about groups in real life are so much better than groups online. And they were encouraging people essentially to get outside and see real life, because there's only so much you can do from a tech connection or a social media connection. So I tried to kind of pivot in Audible a little bit, so that I made my goal in 2024 that every single person I connected with on LinkedIn, I'd at least send them a message saying, hey, I'm not sure if you've read my blog, because I wrote a blog about it. I write a weekly blog, and read it if you want. But it's just little life things that I figured out and things like that. But my blog was talking about how I will try to connect with people to take the human element from the online world. And that means if any person connected with me, they'd at least be offering, a 15-minute call or Zoom just to put a face with the name. Because what was frustrating me the most, and it's very prevalent in today's modern world, is people on social media are just focused on building their follower count, which feels really transactional in nature. They're not actually connect with that person. They just consider them their audience. I don't want to have an audience. I want to be able to say, oh yeah, and I don't know what I'm at now. I'm at least over 8,000 real people that I have on LinkedIn that I can say, oh yeah, that person's a great person. I've had at least a conversation. Now, don't get me wrong. There's some people that never take me up on that offer, but it doesn't mean I'm going to give up on them. I'll just follow up with them in a year and see if that's going to be a better time for them to have a real conversation. So that's what I've been doing from a social media perspective, is no real agenda, but just bringing the human element back to the online world. And it's amazing when you just talk to other people as if they're human and not a transactional, hey, I want to sell you this. You can create some amazing connections. And it's worked very nicely for me on building business, but more importantly, building relationships.
Yeah. So I always tell my clients, like, just because you have 1,000 followers on LinkedIn doesn't mean you have 1,000 customers.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, I will tell you, especially on my wellness for the workforce, and what we're offering here is a pretty innovative concept. I would truthfully compare it to what Uber did to the taxi industry. And there was a lot of people, or what Airbnb did to the hotel industry. The main players, they fought tooth and nail to restrict those companies from actually being able to grow, because it was eating away at their profit margins. And so what we are essentially doing is eating away at the profit margins of a lot of healthcare companies that have been fat and happy for far too long. So, of course, they're going to object to everything that we are saying that we can offer to our clients. Well, the only way we can get our foot in the door is nobody's going to just respond to a cold email from Dan Cosgrove or a cold call from Dan Cosgrove, but they could very well respond to a email from Jaclyn, who might just so happen to know that business owner on a first name basis and say, hey, I've seen it. It looks good. You should at least have a conversation, because the new currency in today's world is relationships. So the way that we've grown as a company is, truthfully, we've built out a ton of affiliate partners. And we'll just say, hey, if you can help us get in the door, then we will pay you a certain profit margin in order to be able to access your network. We're monetizing people's networks, because nobody is going to talk to Dan Cosgrove unless they already know him or they trust somebody that knows Dan Cosgrove. And that, to me, is the network model or the network effect, to be able to get into more companies that otherwise wouldn't give us a shot, because they're just going to listen to the people that they've always known.
Exactly. That's why referrals go such a long way.
Yep. Referrals and networking. That's honestly the most important thing I've found.
Because I have one client, I think over the years, he's referred me to at least like 5 people.
Yep.
Which is amazing. So it just goes to show, sometimes one client may not be huge, like,
Yep.
it's an average client, but they can refer you to 5 people. So
Yep.
at the end of the day, it ends up being a big deal.
Yeah. I mean, I'll give you a real life example. I just got out of a call yesterday, and I can't name names yet because we haven't come to market on it quite yet. But I was introduced. This shows how many degrees of separation. What was the old saying? The 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. So it was a gentleman I used to work with, connected me with somebody that he used to work with, connected me with somebody that he used to know, because like both their kids were on the same soccer team. And that gentleman, along with myself, is working with another company on a solution that could be extremely disruptive, we'll just say, here in America, and is at least a $10 billion opportunity. I would never have been able to get connected with that person if I wasn't connected with the next person, So it's just amazing how, like, one initial person, like the old saying, a waterfall starts with one drop of water. My waterfall started with one drop of water by knowing that one person that was willing to trust me enough to talk to another person, that was willing to trust me enough to talk to another person, that led me to then getting us connected into a $10 billion opportunity. So yeah, that's the power of it.
Yeah. And like, business aside, that's how you can make friends too. Because, making friends as an adult isn't always the easiest thing.
Yeah. And also it's a good way to make friends if you're able to make them money. If everybody ends up winning by having that relationship, they tend to be happy with you. And they might want to maintain a relationship with you anyways.
Oh, yeah. No, definitely. Do you feel like a lot of your clients are local? Are they all over? A bit of both?
All over.
All
Yeah,
over.
all over. I mean, luckily for me, again, leveraging what I've done on LinkedIn to get connected with, and I will say, when I do my LinkedIn connections, I do put a filter on it. I filter to the United States, because I love people or I filter to North America. I love people all around the world, but when I think about it from a real business element, where most of my business is done is here in North America. So I restrict it to that, but between what I'm doing on LinkedIn to the fact that I have access to a strong, we'll just call it, alumni network of Procter & Gamble, Berkshire Hathaway, and Nike, that tends to create a good network for me to be able to access and monetize on behalf of the people that I already know.
Yeah. So I'd assume LinkedIn is like your most successful platform, if you will.
Yeah, I would say LinkedIn is my most successful platform. The other ones I hardly ever use, if I'm being honest. My wife always makes fun of me all the time, because I truly am terrible at reels, and my stories are just stupid. And like, it just shows me like running Harvard them all the time. So like, yeah, I just focus really on LinkedIn.
Yeah, because not every platform is appropriate for every person, and that's okay.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, like, it doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong. It just means, okay, my audience is not on Instagram, so I'm not going to put my energy into a platform that's not going to help me.
Correct. I agree.
Yeah. Like for me personally, like Instagram and LinkedIn are my best platforms as of right now. Like I have no success there, but next year it could be different.
Yep. Correct. Yeah, I even tried out a platform. I think it was called Lemonade last year. And it was fun playing around with it. Like I've enjoyed, doing videos on TikTok, but more so just being able to play around with the functionality of it. Um, but I mean, all these things. I forget who was the person that was talking to me about this. I forget her name. But she's like, just figure out one platform and one platform only, and then grow from there once you have that. All of us try to look at like the big people out there. And yes, of course, they're massive across all platforms, but they didn't start like that. And so I just have to keep reminding myself, like, yes, what I want to be able to have 1 million connections on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and LinkedIn, sure, but that's not going to happen overnight. And I'd much rather focus on the more organic relationships that are real meaningful, that I can actually speak to them like, yes, I know Jaclyn versus now I have 1 million followers, which as much as I'd like to actually know them on a first name basis, I wouldn't be able to know them.
I know, because I have a few people on my LinkedIn, just as an example, who constantly like my posts. And I remember them and I appreciate that. And it goes a long way.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Yeah, yeah. And one of my favorite things to do is I put out polls. I typically do that on a weekly basis. And it's fun just to see what
Um,
people vote on. And then I can then trigger a conversation with them of like, oh, why did you say yes to this? And so I like to do polls because that sometimes also creates a more organic conversation too.
no, I noticed that. And you do a good amount of videos as well.
Yeah, well, the videos I do, it's just my weekly office hour. I try to be transparent because the healthcare industry isn't transparent. So I let companies come in if they want to sit in on the office hour. I let them grill me with questions. A lot of times people just want to listen in and then they follow up with an email because they don't want to, come on live and hey, I get it. That's fine. In fact, it makes my office hours shorter, which I like. But yeah, I try to just be transparent because what's the saying? It takes 25 years to build a reputation, 5 minutes to destroy it. So I try to be overly truthful. Sometimes it's to my detriment, but rather have that than come off as a snake oil salesman.
No, for sure. Because your videos are very good. I like them a lot.
Oh, I appreciate it.
Do you feel like it helps you?
If anything, it helps me with repetition because you never know then because a lot of the things I talk about in those Wednesday office hours that I do are then the exact same presentations that I'll do to a big name client. And like case in point, because I've probably done the same type of conversation I do every Wednesday now, well over 500, almost 1,000 times. And sure, I tweak presentations and everything like that, but it makes it feel like a natural conversation I have with people instead of a sales pitch. And because people don't like being sold to, people like to have a conversation and a dialogue. And that's helped me understand the slight tweak you need to do when delivering a presentation to somebody. And I attribute that actually to a lot of the success we've actually fortunately had in getting some of these CEOs and CFOs across the finish line when others in their corner might be listening to a different source that, of course, doesn't want that business to walk away from them. So, yeah, I'd say the videos help. If anything, it's good practice and repetition.
Yeah. And it's like a practice again of like public speaking too.
And so many people are fearful of that.
Yeah, I'm afraid. It makes me nervous.
Yeah, I got over that a long time ago. I got over feeling embarrassed about anything a long time ago too. But I remember that. I certainly remember those feelings. And yeah, sometimes you'll be shaking in your fingers or a quiver in your voice. Um, but for me, when it's business, it's business. It's simple to talk about. But I've actually had the honor and privilege of marrying, gosh, 3 different people now. And that to me is actually the most nervous I've been in my life because that's to play a momentous role in somebody's life when you're just like, I do not want to screw this one up. And so that's the only time I've really felt nervous. I guess I feel more comfortable now because yeah, business is it's important, but by no means is it as important as helping somebody get married in one of the biggest moments of their life. And so everything else after that feels a lot less nerve wracking.
Yeah, for me, it also depends on the day because I have days sometimes where I just feel more nervous than others.
It certainly happens. Yeah, it can absolutely happen. Yeah, you could have just gotten a bad night's rest, or for me, sometimes you'd have a toddler screaming in the background, and it's very hard to concentrate. So that's just life sometimes.
Yeah, I just gotta, respect it. If you wake up and you don't feel amazing, just say, hey, you know what? I don't feel great today, but it's just one day. Tomorrow will be different. Or even later this afternoon, I might feel better.
Oh, 100%. People need to stop beating themselves up. I always just say extend yourself some grace. Like I try like I've gotten over the fact of I'm not a perfectionist. I tried to make things perfect in the past, but I found I was wasting so much time trying to make it perfect when done is better than perfect. And yeah, I like to be able to forgive myself, and also remind myself, like especially in the videos that I'll do, just like let's be real. How many people are truly gonna watch it and they're gonna even notice that little thing that you're thinking about? Like they're not gonna notice that you screwed up that word. It just people are so focused on themselves, they're not actually going to be so focused on the message you're saying. It's
It's true. And if they do, they do. Because I've read articles online before from like really reputable sources and I found mistakes. And then I think to myself, like, okay, maybe I noticed this, but chances are like 90% of the people would never notice this.
correct. You're exactly right. And when you even notice that mistake, did you even like reach out to that group and say, "Hey, you made a mistake here," or did you
Yeah.
just let it go?
It's just like, random articles you find online when you're trying to figure something out or you're just interested.
I mean, I I 100% know what you're talking about because I've seen those mistakes. And I'd be like, "Oh wow, I found a mistake." I actually celebrate those mistakes because they're just like, "Damn!" Especially if it's a book, that means it's gone through like 10 different people proofreading it. Not to mention, technology has also been able to see like if it's a typo there, and they'd immediately autocorrect it. And yet, you still find publications, really good publications, really good books with typos in it, and it's like, holy crap, there are so many imperfect people then that played a part in that, you know, incorrect word being placed there.
It happens. It doesn't mean the book is not legit. It just means, you know what? There was a mistake.
People are human. Isn't that crazy? When humans are involved in a process, their mistakes can be made.
I know. I know. Yeah, no, I feel like this was a super interesting conversation. Before we wrap up, is there anything you want to share? Any words of wisdom, advice, thoughts, ideas?
Uh, you know, uh, uh, honestly, if people are listening to this, I'd say the biggest thing that I've learned in my life so far is I would rather live with the regret or live with the fact of knowing that I tried versus the regret of never trying. And so I think of a lot of entrepreneurs out there, they're still working. And hey, if you're really passionate about your corporate job, stay there. But there's so many people that are living with this what if in the back of their mind. And I kind of just accepted that I'd rather, you know, put myself out there and fail than live with what if. And believe me, I have failed a lot. Hell, my favorite person, well, still my favorite person, but my role model growing up was Michael Jordan. Loved him, and he had that one line of like, "I have failed time and time again, but that is why I succeed." So, if people are out there and they're maybe down in the dumps right now because they just failed on their latest business idea, or they just don't think they're working out the right job or even getting the right job, I just want to provide some words of encouragement of you're one failure away from success. So think about it that way. Be glass half full on this. Don't beat yourself up. Life is already tough enough. So just try to be your biggest support. At the end of the day, nobody else is gonna care more about yourself and your success than yourself.
Agreed. I cannot agree more.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
but no, hopefully some of the gibberish that I just spouted off for the last 30 minutes was helpful for at least one listener out there. And then, yeah, if they ever wanted to reach out, I would say the best way to find me is on LinkedIn. I think my URL back thing is called Health and Wealth. But it's also Dan Cosgrove. And then if they're trying to get in touch with me, I'd ask that they to reach out to my general email address at my company. It's info@wellness for the workforce. But yeah, happy to have a conversation. If anybody, anything we talked about here today triggered something that somebody wanted to ask me a question on.
Yeah, I'm going to put all of Dan's info in the show notes as well. So if that's easy for you, you could all read it there.
Fantastic. Love it.
Yeah, thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
Hey, Jaclyn, it was fun talking with you and fun talking with our wonderful group of listeners.
Amazing. Yeah, thank you so much again for everyone for tuning in. I hope you loved the episode. And until next time, I will see you all very soon. And I hope you have a great rest of your day.